Now, I'm very excited to start with our industry panel and invite Tamara on the screen. The industry panel discussion, how you turn your ideas into a successful career in the creative industry, will be running from 1:15 to 2, and we will have a bit of a Q&A at the end as well. So make sure that you keep popping your questions in the chat and make sure you write it to everyone as well. Are you there, Tamara?
I'm here. Can you see my screen?
I can see you now.
How are you?
Yeah, good. You?
What a great morning you've had. I've been online, I've been watching great demos. We have our graduates with us, some of our graduates.
Yeah, exactly. Looking forward to this chat today. I'll leave you to it.
Well, thank you. Look, everybody online, it's great to have you with us. Before I introduce our industry guests, I'd like to acknowledge that I'm presenting on the land of the Gadigal and Birrabirragal people, the traditional custodians of this land. We pay our respects to elders, past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the First Nations people who are with us today. Welcome. So firstly, thank you everyone for joining us. Like, you've had a great morning watching really cool live demos and meeting some of our wonderful educators and graduates and our fantastic AIT staff. And now you're in for another real treat. You're going to meet 4 leading practitioners from the 2D animation, film and video, games and new technology industries. They're going to give us some great insights into their fields of expertise, share their creative journeys and talk about current career opportunities and give us some valuable tips. So I'll introduce each of our guests with their bios, which are so very impressive. And I'm going to start with Michael Dries, who is the CEO and co-founder at Spaces Interactive. So Michael has had over 15 years experience in creating and operating enterprises in the technology sector. A driven entrepreneur and creative technologist, Michael most recently co-founded Spaces Interactive, a technology company that develops customer experiences as well as platforms that create immersive experiences that leverage emerging technologies. So at Spaces Interactive, Michael empowers his clients to grow through an emerging technology, as well as speaks to the broader communities about the benefits of investing in 3D educational environment and virtual reality training platforms for both remote and in-office workplaces across multiple industries. Michael, do you want to come on screen?
Just here now. Tamara, how are you?
How are you? Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Right. Next, I'm going to introduce Sandra Walters, who is CEO and producer at Kapow Pictures. So Sandra is a co-founder of Kapow Pictures, a Sydney-based animation production company, mainly producing 2D animation. She works as a producer and executive producer on animated TV series, short films and feature films. Sandra started work in animation as soon as she left art school. In the 1980s, she worked on commercials and pop video in Soho in London with leading UK studios. She co-founded Kapow Pictures in 1997. Her latest production, Adventure Beast, is a new animated comedy series about life in the wild that takes us deeper into the wonders of nature than we probably should go. Adventure Beast premiered just 1 month ago as a Netflix original on, you guessed it, Netflix. Welcome, Sandra.
Hi, hang on. There we go. Oh, there's me. Hi.
Yeah. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for inviting me.
And now we have Jack Condon, an Unreal evangelist with Epic Games. So Jack has over 10 years of experience using Unreal Engine. He's excited by large virtual productions that use real-time technology across media, entertainment and visual arts. Jack has a passion for programming and integration of hardware into the Unreal Engine and is especially keen to help people use Unreal Engine to realise their production dreams. Jack was one of the first developers to create VR content for Epic Games, and his JC inventory application that utilises the Unreal Engine continues to be one of the most popular and commercially successful 3D inventory systems available on the marketplace to date. So welcome, Jack, Sandra and Michael. Wow, what amazing careers you've all had today. Look, I'd like to go back to where your creative journeys all started. And and do we have Simon with us firstly? Could anybody tell me? Ash, maybe not. Okay, we'll start with...
Hi, Tamara, I'm here.
Oh, you're here, Simon.
Yeah.
Hello. I'm going to go back and read your bio, which I don't think I read out. Give me just one moment. So Simon is a leading production designer and has worked in film and television art departments for 40 years, including more than 15 years as an art director on feature films, TV shows and television commercials. He's worked on a number of Australian feature films, including Romulus, My Father, and Look Both Ways, as well as several US productions, I, Frankenstein, Killer Elite, The Quiet American, Where the Wild Things Are, and The Pacific. He's also a leading production designer and has worked on award-winning feature films, including Blessed and Nowhere Boys, Book of Shadows, and the TV shows Time of Our Lives, House Husbands, and the Emmy Award-winning TV show Nowhere Boys. Welcome, Simon. Thank you for being here with us. Okay, we're going to start with you. We'd love to know where it all began. So when you finished high school and what led you to your current career?
Sorry, who did you mean? Did you mean me?
No, to Simon.
Simon.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Wasn't sure.
Well, when I finished high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I thought it would be something to do with storytelling. I loved reading books. I was interested in history and art. And so I was lucky enough to be in the time of free education, so I did an arts degree. And I studied history of film in my major year and decided, film was an area I'd like to work in. So I just kind of managed to weasel my way into the industry. I didn't get a formal education in production design, but I did go to AFTRS, Australian Film, Television, Radio School, and spoke to the head of the design department there. And basically, without being enrolled, I went every day to film school and worked on films. And that's how my career started.
Fantastic, working on the slate at AFTRS, just getting experience on set, small productions, and build your way up. It's interesting, Simon, not one film production practitioner would have the same career trajectory, right?
Yeah, that's right. But it always involves, whatever education you get, there's that jump you've got to make into the industry to start getting professional work, and that ultimately just involves a lot of ringing people, trying to get that foot in the door. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, maybe Sandra, over to you. Can you describe the arc of your career journey from an early emerging talent from art school and where you are today, one of Australia's leading animation producers?
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Perfectly. Thank you.
I came to animation accidentally also. I have a fine art degree back when degrees were free also. So it didn't matter so much that I chose fine art, which of course there was not a career path in really. And then when I came out of university, I had a friend who worked in animation and they went, it's great fun, come and work with me. And so that's what I did. I started out painting cells, I started out painting trace, and then I was around in London at the time when Roger Rabbit was being made. So there was a lot, London was really buzzy. And I worked with a company called Passion Pictures. at the beginning, and they came out of Richard Williams and Roger Rabbit, and so that whole tones and rims thing back in the day, it was the cutting edge back then. And so I worked on commercials using the Roger Rabbit technique, basically. So I worked on a lot of American cereal commercials, Frankenberry, Lucky Charms, there was a lot of Hertz commercials. So anyway, it was fun. And then I did a lot of pop promo stuff. I found that there was a lot of people who were interested in experimenting. So, I could paint and do stuff, there were techniques that we could do that were much more exciting than paint and trace. So I got involved in that. And then eventually, interestingly, no one wanted to organise anything in the creative, in the animation studio I was in. So I put my hand up and went, oh yeah, I'll do it. And so so in London, in Soho, it was quite a small industry. Everyone was in the same place. And so we go to the pub a lot, of course, as you do. And so I used to recruit people at the pubs in Soho. That's what I used to do. I'd have projects and I'd go out and there'd be a lot of people from animation, obviously working on different things. And I'd recruit people to work on projects I was working on. So that's how it was fun. It was really, really fun. And what was interesting about that is...
Scene, Sandra.
Sorry?
I remember that scene. You and I have mutual friends, and I remember going along to those UK pubs, mainly in the West End, right? Soho, West End. And it was a really buzzy scene. And you talked about, Peter Rabbit. Can you just mention something about the style of Peter Rabbit, or...
Oh, what Peter? You mean as in Roger Rabbit? I mean Roger Rabbit, which was the
Roger Rabbit. Sorry,
Dick Williams film. Obviously we did back then. Tones and rims with the 3D effect to make it look, 3-dimensional. That was kind of fairly new then, and so yeah, I used to go around the world. I mean, once I got into production, I was a producer. They used to send me to places to do, to the post houses to finish off stuff. So it was really fun. But what was really good about it too was that back then, there were a lot of people and they all dissipated to different places around the world. A lot of them went to the States. I came here. There's a few people here, and so I still have all those friends, which is, that's what's so great about animation. They are my kind of peer group, and I still am in touch with them. They're still my friends, So, and occasionally we work together on things, and it's a great. It's been really great in that respect. Then obviously after London, I came here. My partner is Australian, so he insisted on living back here in Sydney. And then I'd had quite a few friends who'd had small companies, and I looked at them and I went, I can do that. And so we started a small company, and that's what we've been doing ever since. So we've worked with passion, we work with other companies, we get our own projects up. It's now more interesting to me to go out and fund things, and that's an interesting puzzle in itself, and I love that. So, that's my...
Yeah. Producing you're the artistic custodian of a project, and you're with it right from the beginning, right through to the end, and projects... film projects, animation projects, and VR, Michael will tell you, and games. So we'll talk about with Jack. They never go away. They stay with you forever, particularly as a creative producer. Lovely stuff.
Yeah, and I love joining people together. That's what I love about what I do. So yeah.
And some of our graduates actually have gone into that space where they love the drawing side or the animation side. Of the industry. They've found that, putting teams together and overseeing teams, etc., is where their skills lie and what they love doing. And, they're production coordinators, and they'll move into that producer space as you are. Thanks, Sandra. Michael, can I ask you, you co-founded Merck and then Spaces Interactive. What were your creative aspirations that led you into the technology industry in your current role?
It probably starts with the fact that I get bored really easily. So I studied arts law at uni, and it was a commercial lawyer for 5 or 6 years, and just got a bit bored with that. My arts side of things were film and I guess sort of communications, English literature, that sort of thing. So when I sort of was growing a bit bored of being a lawyer, I started an advertising agency with my brother. And we did that for a number of years, and just got to the point of it was becoming a bit the same thing over and over again. You bank a TV commercial, you book a TV schedule, you do a website. So we got quite interested in emerging technology, which at the time not a lot of agencies were doing, and it was quite, I guess, difficult to implement. So the early days of augmented reality, virtual reality, 3D environments. So we pretty much said to our development team in the agency, if you want to get sacked today, we'll re-employ you tomorrow in a new company called Merck. And that company, we pretty much didn't make a lot of revenue for probably the first year or two. And it was really just doing as many jobs as we could, learning things in those sort of emerging tech spaces. And that's pretty much been the journey for Merck. And so our two companies, Merck and Spaces, the only difference really is they're both in emerging technologies, but Spaces also has an element where it's about hybrid events. And so we can do events for clients that want an in-person, more traditional experience, but also want to back it up with a digital experience for people that can't or don't want to get there, which has been a big growth thing for us, obviously, in COVID.
Michael, it's amazing how quickly technology is just moving. It's just so fast paced. Just quickly, how do you keep up? How do you, and what things do you do to keep yourself across all these new technologies?
Yeah, so I personally know a little bit about a lot of things. So I read a lot of newsletters. I do a lot of online courses within the business, though. So we're a team of about 30, a bit over 30. We have experts that sort of focus on just Unity or just VR or just Elements, and they're the ones that really, I guess, have the skills in their particular thing. I'm more the person that goes to a meeting and can talk a little bit, but I know when to shut up if someone in the room is smarter or knows more about that particular niche.
So it's about, research, which you do. You have to do a lot of research. And self-learning is important, right?
Yeah.
Getting online and just...
And look, it's a mix of, for me, I'd probably spend an hour a day easily on just industry newsletters and reading things, but I think it's important as well to, on some things, do a bit of a deeper dive and actually do a bit more of a structured course in things as well.
Yeah, great advice. Jackie, you there? You're not on screen.
Yeah, should be on screen. Can you see me now tomorrow?
Yeah, hello, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Good to see you.
Good to see you. Hey, look, we'd love to hear about your backstory, what led you to pursue a career in games, and we'll cover sort of Unreal Engine in the VR space a bit later. Where did it all begin for you?
Well, I kind of entered sideways as well. Like Sandra, I had a fine arts degree, and I was a practicing artist for several years, and went into the gallery space. Co-founded a gallery in Mexico. It crashed. Learned a lot. Kind of did that again in Newtown in Sydney, locally, and eventually that crashed too, which is the nature of a lot of these RE spaces. And then after that was kind of experimenting with the first wave of VR and computer vision for the purpose of fine arts, and kind of started exploring the potential of all these technologies for installation spaces. And there was great synergy with what was going on in industry at the time as well. So I kind of started looking at more industry spaces, eventually ended up being the technical director of a company in Sydney called S1T2, Story First, Technology Second, which of course, Tamara, you know quite well, where, we started developing a lot of different stuff, a lot of like museum projection mapping, or large-scale installs. Some of the work we did there, was really, I really liked the really large-scale work because it was always incredibly technically challenging to put together. And often world first. For example, in Detroit, we had a car that went over a 50-meter track indoors that was made out of big chunks of metal and all sorts of little. It kind of looked like a Foley studio with all the strange things we had in there. And then we were using motion capture to track that car, sending the telemetry, say, into VR, so we could transport all the people there across different sites in America. And this was really hard because at the time, the tech didn't exist to not make you incredibly sick. There was only one white paper that came out of Germany. So, this is the space that I really enjoy, that kind of integration for something that hasn't been done before. And so my journey led me to Epic, where I could see that doing it at a much larger scale, and have a hand in the kind of curation and creation of these technologies that are affecting all the different productions that I used to work on. So now I'm working across India, Southeast Asia, New Zealand, and Australia. And focusing on the M&E space and virtual production, because it has a lot of synergies to the work I used to do. But there's a lot to learn, and I'm learning a lot about film and animation as I go, because my experience is live events, and it's been absolutely wild.
Fantastic. Can I just ask you, when you sort of started out in games, were you a programmer, a game artist, or a game designer, producer?
Yeah, so my experience in games, because I was doing a lot of live spaces, but the experience in games really came, I've always programmed for fun, and then integrating my art practice, I was working a lot with lights, things like that. But then I decided to learn programming just by starting a project with a bunch of people in a shed, basically. Without any heating, and that's kind of where I learned that craft. So I came in as a programmer, but as I started to extend, I learned technical art, which is very essential in all these mediums, doesn't matter what vertical you're on, and eventually stepped into design and producing, because I had a bit of skill in all these areas, so I was able to see how the projects could come together, and that's kind of where I'm most happy, I think, because I like the view of the trying to conceptualize everything together, including the people who are going to be working on these projects and solving that puzzle.
It's interesting. All the panelists here, you've all had a sort of a university background. 3 of you are sort of from an arts-focused background. And you're all sort of leaders in your space now. It's amazing where you start and where you can end up. It's absolutely fantastic. And let's talk a little bit about career opportunities, and maybe Simon, we'll come back to you now. Aside from producing content for the big screen these days, the demand for digital content is huge. Would you agree that this opens up many more opportunities to produce things, say, for video content, TV commercials, video content for clients on social media, etc.?
I guess so. To be honest, my work is predominantly in film and TV. The great thing with the TV is now, when I started, TV was kind of the poor second cousin, and you wanted to do features because that was where you might have a chance to actually get production value. And that's completely changed now. Television is often far better than films in terms of you've got a longer time to tell a story, so the scripts are often really exciting and go deeply into the story. And with streaming services, obviously there's just a massive demand for content. So we're very lucky at the moment. There's a lot of work around. There's also a lot of international work in Australia at the moment. Partly COVID helped, I think, to get things going, because we were one of the few places in the world last year that content could still be produced. So we had shows that were planning to go or even had started to film in other countries, in Canada and so on, that relocated to Australia. But in terms of, there is also obviously with the internet and, there's web series and so on. I haven't had much experience of that myself, but I think it is, it's great that there is, that shows that it's very global and you can get all sorts of experience working on all sorts of productions.
Yeah, for sure. We had Paige Cunningham with us earlier, and Paige worked in your art department on the set of Nowhere Boys a few years ago now, maybe 2018 or so. And they had certain skills, I know, sort of digital skills that I know that you utilised, I'd say, with Bailey as well, his graphic design skills. Employment within film isn't just, filming and editing and production design, but it can be like in that art department as a graphic designer, creating digital assets, etc.
Yeah, for sure. And Bailey, Paige, and Monique were all came from AIT and worked on both Nowhere Boys and Investigators, another kids' TV show I did, and were great. The skills that they brought and so on. It's another interesting technological change recently in the film industry is that. Where in the past computer-generated environments have always been added in post, so you would have actors performing in front of a green screen or a blue screen, and the whole CG part of it is done afterwards. In the last year or so, the technology now is with massive LED screens that that kind of content is generated before you shoot and is actually displayed on the screen. So you have interactive light on the actors and everybody else can see exactly what they're meant to be reacting to. And that's something that, the last couple of shows I've worked on, for example, Fires, the ABC show, there was some of the scenes we shot, which there's just no other way we could have done it really.
And I've seen Fires, Simon, and it's that work you're talking about is absolutely beautiful in that it's quite seamless. So technology has really advanced so much that, it's really hard to spot, right?
Yeah.
The average viewer, they're totally in belief of what they're seeing, These incredible scenes of fires and whatnot. Yeah, well done. Amazing. Sandra, can you tell us a bit about some career opportunities in animation, and are there opportunities across all aspects of animation?
Well, yes, as Simon just touched on, COVID meant that not so much that people necessarily had to be here, but obviously remote work became much more viable. Animators often tend to like to work, obviously by themselves and computer, and it's very time-consuming animation. Tasks require a lot of effort, and you're on your computer screen the whole time. So of course you can set up in your own house fairly easily and produce work. I mean, the problems I felt we had with our recent production was obviously setting up new teams remotely was difficult because, setting up teams of people already, that's easy. Setting up teams of people who have just come out of university and training them and then integrating them into a team and then working with them and inspiring them, and that's hard. I find that quite hard. But no, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity in animation at the moment, particularly as you can work remotely. So, we train people working on Australian productions. There are other people I know, working on Canadian productions. So yes, that's really good for animation, those opportunities, I think. Yes, there's lots of work in animation at the moment, although there's a couple of obstacles, quotas being one of them. And children's tends to use animation a lot, and the lack of children's TV quotas is a problem. But there's a lot of service work here, so that's good. Which is a part of the industry. I know, as we have talked about before. But there's a lot of places people can go from university, I think, into training. I mean, certainly, you do need to do a course in animation to go into animation, really, if you want to be an animator.
Okay. What are a couple of the entry-level jobs for animators, such as cleanup, etc.? What other?
Cleanup, because we did work in Toon Boom. So Toon Boom is one of the biggest international programs. There are other programs like Cell Action, TV Paint. There are other programs, Flash, of course, still. But Toon Boom is the international one, really. So that would be the one I would recommend anyone learn who's starting. Certainly going into background painting is a possibility, going into prop design and those areas. Those are sort of areas you can slot people in who have little experience. Animation, in our project, we took people who had done an animation degree and we trained them a lot of them we train in Toon Boom. A lot of people hadn't even rigged before. So that's the other thing with software. You know, you've got, they touch on the software, but they don't know the software. And that was a problem for us. But anyway, so yeah, animation, we did train.
By the way, Sandra, we teach Toon Boom. That's the major software we use it. We teach at AIT, but you know, it varies from college to college and from studio to studio. It's different across the board, but you know, our students have to be kind of good self-learners because they're going to be thrown into the deep end once they get into industry, no matter what areas, right?
That's right. Yep. Definitely. So, yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, learn as much as you can when you're in university, but, you know, actually do it. Don't, you know, and do it every day, not just, you know, when you're required to do something, because you really need to be passionate to work in our industry. Passion is a key, you know, to what we do, because it's kind of hard sometimes to make a living. You know, you're going from project to project. You know, you're going on recommendations often. So, you know, you really need to want to do what you're doing, you know, I think.
Absolutely, and keeping up those skills every day. Doing that keeps people buoyant in between jobs. You know, they're as freelancers, the work, you might have a little bit of time in between jobs, and you've just got to keep your art skills up, your creative skills.
Keep upskilling, yeah.
Definitely. Jack, I might ask you a question here. So we've got many of our students in the audience now and high school students. They're passionate about the gaming world. What advice would you give those considering studying games about career opportunities, and what tips could you offer them at this early stage, you know? And after that, could you explain a bit about the areas where AR and VR are being used? And Michael could talk to this as well.
Yeah, for sure. Look, I think in terms of the perspective of students, I think it's important to know where the industry trends are for jobs and things like this. And I think within the game sector and across multiple verticals, and this is the thing about learning a tool like Unreal Engine, right, is that you can come in for games, but you can end up with a career like mine, which is basically just a Jackson Pollock canvas, right? Like there's no like, and that's where it gets really exciting. But certainly getting a foundation in games is really at its core where a lot of these technologies come from. So what I would say to that, however, is that there are certain elements in games that are really needed, not just locally, but also globally, which is great because, you know, a career in video games and those technologies enables you to travel quite a lot. And specifically, I'd point out that we're really looking for skilled technical artists. And what I would say is that for those who don't know the role, and I'm just going to focus on technical art, there's a few other roles, but the reason I'm bringing up technical art is that I think it alludes to something bigger. The approach you should take when you're learning these tools and the way you should think is that technical art is a role where you apply technology to an art practice. Or, you know, you come in the other way and you've got this technology, but you're trying to achieve an artistic outcome. And I think the reason I bring this up is because it requires an understanding of a lot of different things to bring them together for your aesthetic outcome or your creative outcome. And these days, it's not just enough to, you know, just be a fantastic modeler who can create an environment. To really achieve what you've got in your brain, you need to be able to look at many different technologies and bring them together. And that's the role of a technical artist. Now, this is hard, and it's incredibly hard because you need to be multidisciplined. And so when you're looking at your education, always, you know, you don't need to do everything at once, but you need to be able to set those goals to say, hey, look, I am modeling at the moment, but maybe I should be learning a little bit of script, and make time for that and learn how those things can come. Play with the material editor and blueprints in Unreal Engine and play with blueprints to start working on your skills and diversifying. And look, I hate to quote it because it's Google and it's big, but the T-shaped person is a term that gets thrown around a lot at Google, right? And this is the way I think you should consider it a job in the games industry, is that really what people are after are a T-shaped person. By that I mean you've got a very good understanding of the engine in general. You might be an environmental artist, and you're deadly in that field, but you have no problem jumping into blueprints to make tools to speed up your workflow. And that would be my core advice about how you approach games in general. And then outside of that, it's really working out who you want to start talking to based on the projects that they're doing. And the other thing is, I would say is that after you do games for a while, don't be scared to jump ship and try new things. I mean, all the skills that you learn are all possible in different industries, and you'll have to learn a lot of new skills, but they won't be technical. There'll be different structures. As I said, I'm learning all about how to be on set and work all these things. My focus is on technology, but what I'm interested in is collaboration. And I think that that's key, is that working in different fields, you'll learn how to collaborate, and ultimately that will make you achieve better creative outcomes more than any technology will.
Transferable skills and collaborative skills, you'd all agree, just so important. And our students at AIT do get opportunities to do internships for course credits, where they work in industry related to their study fields. Their capstone projects, they work in collaborative teams, so they get to understand how a pipeline works. It's also important, isn't it? Those things, and I think you'd all agree. Hey, Michael, what's the one piece of advice you've given us to an aspiring creative technologist, or, even high school student that have a strong interest in the field?
Look, it's probably not to, take a cop out, but I'd reiterate word for word what Jack's just said. So it's very much around, so we don't do a lot of games in our space, but we employ plenty of game designers, game developers. If you learn that skill, most of what we do will be in like we do ancillary games where it's part of the thing to engage people or whatever. We're not out there trying to start the next Fortnite or the next whatever.
Michael, Stephen Ewan, who's working for you now, he's an example of that. He did our game app programming degree.
Yep.
And then he came to you. He's not necessarily, it's those transferable skills. He's not necessarily creating a game, but...
Same skill set. So we do mainly, we develop mainly in Unity as a platform, but equally a lot of people have learned Unreal and come over to Unity with us. It's the kind of thing that if you have that background, you understand what it takes to do a VR training application or to do a 3D environment that's only ever delivered in a desktop sense. So you've got that storytelling, that engagement. So it's very important skills. And I think that's, no one, when they're starting out in their career, actually knows what they want to do, even if they think they know what they want to do. But I think the main thing is to get skills and get skills that are transferable, as Jack said, across a range of industries. And I think, learning game design and game development are great skills that sort of carry over in a range of tech applications.
Thanks, Michael. That's great. Look, we'd like to sort of go into a few tips from you all. There's so much demand for emerging talent in Australia at the moment across games, film and TV, VFX and animation, the local creative tech industry. It's thriving. I'd like to open up the following question to you all. What are your views on what is so critical when studying and preparing for careers in these industries? Is it creative ideas and storytelling, teamwork, collaboration, et cetera, Simon? Oh, you've got your mic on there, as does Jack.
In film, it's all about storytelling, and that's kind of the key thing to constantly be aware of and in tune with the story that you're trying to communicate. And in terms of the skills, there's obviously a massive range of skills that you can bring to the table. But I kind of think what Sandra said earlier about passion, that is kind of the key. If I'm looking for people to bring into my team, I want some skills, but I'm, to a large extent, if the people have got the right attitude, they really want to learn, they really want to be there, they are looking to contribute however they can, and also are looking to learn. I think that's one thing that if you want to be always learning. I'm still learning, and every job I do, if I haven't learned some great things, then that's very disappointing. Yeah.
Fantastic. No, thank you so much. It's great, Simon. Who else would like to add something there? Jack and Michael, your mics are on.
Yeah, look, I think, Tamara, just to add to what Simon said, it's exactly that for us, but it's also speed of learning. So whether it's someone comes to us with, if we're talking like a gaming environment, if somebody comes to us with either Unreal or Unity, if we've got a project that's the other one, how quickly can they get up to speed? So you might do a 3 or 4 year degree in Unreal and you know Unreal quite proficiently, but how quickly can you transfer those skills over to Unity if you need to? And I think that's probably the thing we're finding in terms of people that are successful with us. It almost doesn't matter what they learn and whether that's Unity, Unreal, what app language they're learning, what front end language they're learning. It's how quickly they can go, okay, I've got the basis, I've learned how to learn because of what I've been taught. How quickly can I transfer that to something else because we've just landed a big project that's a legacy project that's been built on like a 2 or 3 year platform that's this particular thing, and we don't have quite the number of people that need to service that. So that's
being agile and flexible.
Yeah.
And being able to think on the spot.
Yep.
Learn quickly from the senior people in the team.
And very much, I think, approaching any sort of tertiary study with the mindset of, yes, the skills are important, but the greatest thing I'm learning is the ability to learn.
Fantastic advice. Thanks. Sandra and Jack?
I'll jump in from I'll go from a 2D perspective and say drawing. There's no substitute for drawing. I'm sorry, so it's a basic skill. You need to do it every day. There's a lot of people come to, to study who love something like anime. That's a really hard style of animation to do well, and you need to be able to draw. So boring though that might seem, that's for me core of a lot of problems that I encounter.
Yeah, I think certainly our students understand that pretty quickly once they get into their drawing classes. Actually, yeah, it's imperative, and you've just got to keep at it every day. Practice. It's practice makes perfect. It's 10,000 hours. You just got to do it. You just got to live and breathe it.
Yeah,
for sure. Jack?
I might advocate now for virtual production specifically, to go a bit deeper on the film kind of thing. And I think that the reason I bring this one up, because there's so many different places that you can learn skills in, and the industries are different, but this is new and this is really exciting. We don't know what form and shape it's going to take. And all the students at AIT are going to be leading that charge. You're in the perfect position to really develop what this looks like. And, you might be learning material, but you also have a real, learning material of how to do things, but you also have just as much chance as actually contributing to how things are done, because this is completely new and exciting. So I just want to say that's in terms of what skills, hey, I don't think there's anyone on the planet who can totally tell you that, but learn to work out what those pipelines look like. And that's really, I think this is going to be one of the most exciting fields that you can dive into as a student is ICVFX, which stands for in-camera VFX. And even in animation, how we can augment these processes with virtual production. This is very exciting. So how do you do that? Okay, because I would say that if you're interested in ICVFX, contact studios and make those friends. There's not so many volumes around, so that's really how you'll start to get involved. And that's where, we were talking about that passion, get involved in those projects. People see that you're passionate, that you really want to push this. They'll let you come experiment and be a part of that learning process as well. Of course, at the core of virtual production, is Unreal Engine as one component. There are so many components, but certainly, all the major productions happening in Australia are all done in Unreal. Simon, you mentioned Fires, of course, which was done with Unreal Engine. And it's critical to have a good understanding of those tools as well.
Oh, fantastic, Jack. Really, really great advice, Sarah. And I think what you're saying so much is take what you do seriously, do your research, learn as much as you can. And I think Simon mentioned it as well, reach out to people, get to know people. Your network starts at university, at college, at AIT, and then it goes beyond that. When we bring industry onto campus, Jack's been onto our campus, Simon's hosted our students, Michael hosts our internship students and has hired our graduates. Sandra, you've taken part on panels and given that valuable feedback. These are the sorts of things we like to offer our students and take advantage of. I want to ask you one more question each, and maybe Simon, I'll go to you. Can you just explain, as a production designer, who you work with, on your day-to-day on the set? Who are your main collaborators in film and TV? Just give the audience an idea of what a production designer does.
So the production designer's job is to come up with the look for the film or the show and to translate the ideas that are in the script into reality. So you're working predominantly with the director and the cinematographer in the first instance. You're also working with location managers and scouts because you have to try to find where are the places, the physical places that you're going to film in. And then it's the production designer and the art department that have to work out what you need to do to transform those spaces.
And Simon, you have the biggest department on any set is the art department, the production team. The production design team had the biggest on-set department, right?
Often, yeah. And you often spend a lot of the money too, because every project's different, but you might need to build things. Build sets or props, but even something that's quite realistic, you'll need to bring the characters to life. So if you it's something set in somebody's house, then the production designer needs to work out in collaboration with the director, usually most of all, I guess, but also writers might have an input about the backstories of the characters, because everything that you put into that set will tell something about who that person is.
All about the storytelling and characters behind, exactly. Fantastic. Thank you. And can I just ask you, Simon, with Fires, you worked on that production. Did you have anything to do with the VFX team that worked and did so much of the visuals?
Yeah, well, we had to work out how art department combine with the computer-generated elements. So, for example, people have seen the last episode, we built a pier that matched the pier where we'd filmed for the daytime so that we could provide an environment where it went all smoky and red and so on. So we had to, that's one example. You just need to know where does the physical environment end and the virtual environment start. Anytime you see an actor standing on the ground, that's going to be physical ground or interacting with something physical, then the art department have to create that, and you have to work out by close collaboration with the VFX team how to make a seamless blend. Yeah.
Thank you for those insights. Just fantastic. Sandra.
Sorry, what was the question?
I'd like to ask you just about what you like to see in a 2D animation portfolio from emerging talent. Fresh out of college, yeah?
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess I would come back to drawing. Because 2D is such a, drawing is essential. I mean, not to everything. Obviously, an interest in drawing, an interest in design, an interest in what's going on. Obviously, do some homework before you go anywhere. Find out what the people actually have done in the past, so that you have, that's one of the fundamental things. Even if you're pitching projects, fundamentally you find out what the broadcaster, is currently broadcasting. And then you go and pitch, based on, there's no point pitching a children's TV show to someone that doesn't take children's TV. So I mean, just I want to see that someone's looked up what we do and is interested and understands it. Don't waste my time. But I mean, drawing would be what I would look at again.
And present best work, right? Best work, presenting your best work, and it doesn't have to be a lot.
It doesn't have to be a lot. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes, I've taken school students in the past. I don't do it currently, but schools used to I started to take school students, and then everyone wanted to send me students from school, and then so I kind of stopped because it was very time consuming. But people say they're interested in drawing, and then they send you someone and they bring their sketchbook out and they've got 3 drawings in it. That doesn't tell me you're interested in drawing. I don't know, I guess show me something that's relevant, but it might not be actually the thing you're going to do in the end, but show me something that's relevant to what, you might be doing. I mean, and show me, it doesn't have to be lots.
They're not expected to have a lot of work, but what they're showing has to be very good, right?
Yeah, I mean, it should be a variety. I mean, it should be relevant to the job you're going for or the company that you're going to, I think,
Perfect. Thank you. Michael and Jack, do you want to just add something there about what you were looking for emerging talent?
I think, Tamara, you probably touched on it. We like bringing interns on, and obviously we've got a strong relationship with AIT. It's as much about the person having a look at us as us having a look at the person as well. So do they work with our systems? Do they like the kind of jobs that we do? I think that the key in this industry is not just attracting people, but retaining people. And the way you retain people is obviously you provide a good working environment, but just as importantly, or perhaps more importantly, you provide projects that energize them, that they're interested in. And so I think, for us, it's probably the internship program is a really good way for us to recruit people. I think we're up to 6 or 7 full-time hires, I think, through AIT.
We've had a great partnership over the years, Michael, and some great outcomes. And with full-time job offers or contract work. But even if that doesn't happen, just that experience of working with you and your team, it's so invaluable. To step outside of the college environment and have to go somewhere every day, be punctual and fit in with a team that you don't know, that you just have to be adaptable.
Yeah, and look, I think it's probably a big step for some people who go from, a semester or whatever where they know, okay, I've got this assignment due in this time, and then they come to a commercial environment, and as much as I think AIT do a better job than any others that we've seen, it's still that step from studying to commercial reality is probably a big thing for some people, where there's deadlines. I mean, ultimately we're in a creative industry, but we also want to stay healthy and growing and productive as a business. So we still need to have an hourly rate. We still have a daily rate. And it's that thing that I think's a good taster through an internship.
All those commercial factors that our students may not think about when going into a studio or a company. They really need to get their head around the fact that it's a business and you're working for clients and etc. Jack?
Well, now I'm at Epic. I don't do any hiring because we're, it's scale. Let me answer the question from my experience from hiring at S1T2, which I always got directly involved in. And I really think that the key thing that I would always look for is a term, polish, right? Because we were always operating under the assumption that you wanted to be there and you wanted to have creative, you wanted to contribute creatively, right? Didn't matter if you're a programmer making tools or, you know, artist. The role independent, it was this concept that everyone would be pushing towards the goal. And where you would see the big difference with the hiring was just say, let's use an example. You've come into a job that you've got an object in that we're making a camera move around, okay? And you've got two different types of programmers in this scenario. So I'm going to pick on programmers because I am one. But you've got two different types of programmers. You've got one that makes a very simple track that the camera just moves around, right? And then you've got one who's paying into the depth of field as it moves around and how it comes in and moves out on different curves and has built an overly complex system at times that ultimately achieves a really polished outcome. And then they say, this isn't done yet. And you say, well, we have to move on. And I think that concept of polish has nothing to do with the technology. It has something to do with how you interact with your work at a daily level. But the other thing is it's a skill. It's a skill you have to train, because it can also be really painful, you know, and I think that always think about that on whatever you're working on. Is this finished? Can I keep pushing it within my time frame? The worst mistake you can make as a junior is actually saying, hey, look, I finished early. Here it is. And you show that to your leads and they look at it and they said, you're not even close to done. It's one of the worst mistakes you can make. So just keep that in mind. Polish is critical and have an opinion about your work. It's up to you to push it. No one else is going to push it for you. They will if you ask, but certainly, really the onus comes onto you.
Absolute gold. Jack, thank you. Sandra, Simon and Michael, hearing about your backgrounds has been really fascinating. Your tips and advice, absolutely great. Really appreciate your time this Saturday. Thank you. I know our audience will have got a lot from this and we'll totally appreciate it. All of us at AIT really appreciate your time and the wonderful connections that we have with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was amazing.
Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tamara. Thanks, everyone.
See you all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, Sandra.